So if you want to share the slides, fantastic. So welcome everybody, as I say, welcome to this session, Sietar Southeast Asia, on reimagining the future of work in Southeast Asia. I'm very excited about this because this group that I had the pleasure of working with earlier are presenting, and they, I can guarantee, have some very innovative approaches to addressing some of the issues relating to inequality and talent. And it's really nice to have the perspective of these young and very impressive Southeast Asian leaders. So thank you for that. Just moving on to giving you a little bit of an outline. So as I say, I'm Joyce Jenkins. I'm one of the founders of Sietar Southeast Asia. I've been involved in Sietar, which is a global network for many years, and was formerly president of Sietar Southeast Asia, Sietar Europa, now of Southeast Asia, and I'm also involved in the global team. I'll tell you a little bit more about Sietar later, but I'm sure all of you are familiar already with the use of Zoom, but as I mentioned, we will be recording. Anything else that we need to mention, Seiji, on the technical side?
Probably just if you can turn on your camera, it creates great engagement. So as much as you can, please turn on your camera. If you cannot, if you don't want to appear in the video, please turn off your camera. And also, while other people are speaking, please turn off your microphone.
Thank you for that. So we'll shortly introduce you to the panel and the speakers, and have the presentation followed by discussion, Q&A, and then we'll give you some more information on upcoming events as well. So that's the plan for the day, for this afternoon or evening, wherever you're joining from. Just a brief introduction to Sietar Southeast Asia. As I mentioned, we're part of a global network. The mission of Sietar, which is the Society for Intercultural Education, Training and Research, and worldwide, the purpose is to encourage development of an application of knowledge, values and skills which enable the effective intercultural and interethnic relations. So those are our values there. We really, it defines us as an association, but also as individuals. And we in Sietar Southeast Asia are open to those who are based in Southeast Asia or interested in aspects of Southeast Asia. We welcome all of you who have an interest in aspects of culture, and that's the details of our website and so on. But thank you very much for joining today. We have a team of volunteers who are involved in organizing the events, some of whom are here today. Seiji, you've already met, as he's our technical guru and handling all of that side of things. We also have Greg, who is here today, and is going to help support with some of the aspects of the questions and answers and so on. And some of our other team members, Judith, I'm not sure if she's managed to get here yet. I think she may be trying to join. And we also have Marie-Therese Klaas, who's based in Vienna, a professor there, and she, I believe, can't make it today, as well as Srivan Naidu, who may also make it today, and Arti Kashkar, who is one of our team members as well, and may also join today. So that's the background to Sietar Southeast Asia. But most importantly, moving on to our presentation on reimagining the future of work in Southeast Asia. As I mentioned, this group here is one of the group I had the pleasure of working with earlier this year in May, as part of what's called the Asia Foundation's Young Southeast Asian Leaders Initiative, and they had a workshop on the future workplace. And one of the parts of that workshop was what we called solution circles, where groups were asked to address a particular issue with relation to the countries and the region of ASEAN, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations. And I had the pleasure of working as a mentor with this particular group, who were addressing the issue of inequality and talent in Southeast Asia, and how it would impact the future of work and the future workplace in the region. So it gives me great pleasure to present this group. Not all of them have managed to make it this evening, but we have a good representation. I know that Nicole is here. I don't know if you would like to wave, Nicole, and introduce yourself. Great, so Nicole is here.
Shall I introduce myself now, Joyce?
Yes, do. Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you, Joyce. So, hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening for wherever in the world you are. I'm from the Philippines, and I am very much interested in the future of work as I work for a trade union here in the country and also for a legislator who represents the interests of the labor sector in the House of Representatives. I'm also a member of the Philippine Futures Thinking Society, which has a goal of democratizing futures literacy in the country, as well as a member of the Association of Professional Futurists, and I also sit on the United Nations Youth Advisory Board here in the Philippines, representing the workers in the formal sector. Nice to meet all of you.
Thank you very much, Nicole. And we also have here this evening, we have Ong from Myanmar. Would you like to introduce yourselves, Ong?
Hi, this is Ong from Myanmar. Yeah, I'm actually from Myanmar, and things like it's raining a lot here, so probably so yeah, I started the S4BBT in 2019. So I'm running S4BBT is for a learning center which bridge the local young people to have access to further study and also to get a job entry level in the city or in abroad too. Yeah, I'm also working as a news agency, which is a local news outlet as a program manager. Here we have we provide the news in 3 languages, like in Myanmar, in Mon, in English too. Yeah, this is all about me. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ong. And we also have Sahab, who I think is here. Ali Sahab. Would you like to introduce yourself? Nope, maybe he has had to make a move, but we'll come back to Sahab, and we have Max Tran.
Okay. Hello, thank you, Joyce, for having me today. And first of all, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to everyone, like from all over the world, right? So just a brief intro about myself. So my name is Max. So currently I'm a full-time HR professional, and my specialty is within the learning and development. And so for that reason, myself, I believe in the power, in the people development, in bringing many benefits, doing wonders to the society and community. So that's the reason why it's my pleasure and I'm honored to be here today to discuss further with you. And I hope that everyone could have a good and fruitful time from the forum today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Max, joining from Vietnam. Sahab.
Yes.
Yes, nice to see you. Thank you very much for joining.
Sorry, need to prepare my desk before. So good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Sahab. I'm coming from Indonesia. Right now, I'm currently working for a telco company, managing the CSR. So I'm developing the university students in Indonesia to develop their soft skills to prepare them for their career readiness after they graduate. So currently, we have 9 batch since 2020 and 2012. So it's almost a decade this year. Thank you, Joyce. I hope that we can discuss together.
Much. Okay. And we, of course, not last but not least, we have Jared from Singapore.
Thanks, Joyce. Hi, everyone. My name is Jared. I'm from Singapore, and I currently am running a education social enterprise that focuses on skills development for students from ages 8 all the way to tertiary level. And we primarily work on soft skills such as thinking critically, writing creatively, speaking confidently, and working collaboratively. And we do that through a variety of different programs. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you, Jared. Thank you. And two other of the team members, Amy and Chan, who couldn't actually join today, but also contributed greatly to the preparation for this presentation and collaborating on what were the important issues to be raised. And one of the things that really impressed me about this group was how well they worked together and how they collaborated. It was a virtual program, so they were using collaborative tool, they were using a mural, and of course during the week that they attended this program, they were also attending having lectures and virtual workshops and virtual visits and so on. But what was really impressive was how they made time for each other. And even when some of the participants were having great difficulty joining and different problems with internet and being able to join, for example, by WhatsApp to take part, the others were making sure to reach out and get their input and seek their opinions and understand things from their perspectives in order to create this presentation and come up with the ideas with the solutions that they've come up with. So I was really impressed by that, not just by what they came up with, but also how they worked together and how they really represented that collaborating across boundaries and across cultures in order to come up with something that was really going to benefit the communities and really of benefit for all of us. So without further ado, I will hand over to this group. I believe that you're kicking things off, Nicole, is that correct?
Yes, Joyce, thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Just wanted to check if my slides are showing. Okay, thank you. So again, a very big thank you to all of you for having us and giving us this space to share our proposal with you. I would like to greet you a Hiraya Manawari, which is a Filipino phrase that translates to "May the wishes of your heart be granted." Now, for the Asia Foundation's Y. Seeley workshop on the future workforce, our team, under the mentorship of Joyce, was given the challenge of proposing solutions to address the future of work as it relates to inequality and talent at the individual level in Southeast Asia. Now, we want to begin by sharing with you a story that is all too common for many young people in ASEAN. I would like you to meet Kalayaan. She is a young girl who grew up in a rural area whose community is one filled with farmers. She goes to school but has no access to digital tools and is unable to overcome the challenges that face her, such as the outdated mindset that girls are meant to stay at home to raise a family, a language barrier that does not allow her to access many of the materials available online, and the inaccessibility of higher education. She comes from a long line of farmers, which is very noble and essential work, but it is a livelihood that is threatened by change if there is no push to be agile and to adapt. When agriculture moves into digitalization, she and her community could find themselves unemployed and left behind by the transformation that is taking over the world. We would like to compare this to the life of Adam, a young boy who is growing up in a world that is completely alien to Kalayaan. He lives in a modernized city, has all the access to education and information that he needs to learn hard and soft skills that are in demand, and will most likely be able to transition and adapt very easily to the fourth industrial revolution. In juxtaposing these stories, the problems we identified as a group that are facing young people in ASEAN are focused on inequalities. We have language barriers, the digital divide, the mindsets against agility, adaptability, and lifetime learning, gender inequality, and the rural-urban divide. And this is important, and we should care about inequality because there is so much untapped potential for growth in the ASEAN region. But these opportunities are very unevenly distributed. We need to change that so that we together can make one ASEAN where our future workforce is diverse and inclusive, where the gap between rural and the urban is bridged, and every talent can be nurtured to their fullest potentials. And the question is, how do we do this? How do we enact this change? And our solution is through empowerment. I'd like to pass this off now to Jared. Thank you.
Thank you. So as Nicole has mentioned, this proposal was done as part of the Solution Circle for the YCV program. And so basically we were coming from the angle of thinking about what could be the best way in which we would help youths bridge the gap in terms of upskilling and giving them the ability to thrive in the 21st century. And so we came out with the idea of this Ignite platform, basically using the metaphor of a flame to sort of ignite passions and ignite change within communities. Right, next. And so basically one of the things that we were thinking about is what is the best way in order to continue to promote lifelong learning and building that platform for people to want to connect and learn from each other. And so we boiled it down to 3 key things that we want to focus on in this project, which is to learn, connect, and contribute. And so basically learning is where, of course, people who are interested in upskilling themselves, people who are interested in continuing lifelong learning and continuing their education journey will come in and learn. Connecting is, of course, where we would come in to gather among like-minded community leaders, like-minded people, and connect and build relationships beyond their communities. And finally, to contribute back, having these people who have come in to learn and connect to continue to contribute to that community. Right, next. And so our idea was basically, if we could create a skills-based learning platform that would prepare ASEAN youth for the future of work. And this would be a grassroots-driven platform that would start off with providing community change makers with the tools and the know-how for them to learn, equip, and upskill themselves, and then to go back into their communities and promote skills development. Next. And basically within this program, within this platform, we are thinking of it having 4 main pillars. The first one is a Change Makers program, which would start by equipping the youths and community leaders with the tools and the know-how that they need. Second, as I mentioned just now, building that network, peer matching and mentorship in order to create an ASEAN-wide kind of a platform where we connect people with the mentors and the peers that they need in order to further upskill themselves and for them to help leverage on the resources and the know-how that other people could have to help themselves. And next, we're thinking of partnerships with institutions and industry in order for our change makers to better learn how to meet the challenges in the real world and to be able to get more in-depth understanding from practitioners and from experts in their field. And then finally, having our change makers go back into their communities and to see how they can better advocate for skills development and training by conducting workshops and advisory at a local level. And then, of course, over time, having these beneficiaries come into the movement as well. Next. And yeah, and so basically, what we are thinking of, if we ever get to implement this idea, is to have this as an online platform with all these different community change makers joining in, and all these community change makers starting off on the digital platform first before going into their communities to actualize it in the real world. And we were thinking, of course, of having a digital infrastructure to provide these learning communities, one that then can be also used when the change makers go into the communities, as well as continuous learning and engagement through e-learning networking, so that we can, go beyond boundaries and allow for these kind of opportunities to happen, in good times and in bad, whether there are restrictions or not. These kind of changes, these kind of connections can still take place. Next. And yeah, so basically what we see is that a program such as this would have different layers, a multiplier effect, if you will, on the impact that it is, that we have. So starting from the change makers themselves, and then having them build and cascade this impact to people within their immediate networks, their community at large, and then hopefully with many change makers in the community impacting society at large as well. And we did tie in this project to the Sustainable Development Goals. So as an education platform, this would definitely meet the needs of Goal 4, quality education. But we also see that such a platform like this help in ensuring decent work and economic growth, help to reduce inequalities. As Nicole has mentioned, we were considering the effects of the rural-urban disparities. We were considering, of course, within ASEAN itself, different countries have different development indexes, so on and so forth. And so a program like this would help to also promote a reduction of inequality. And then definitely, given that it's a grassroots-based program, given that we are aiming to work with the private sector, with industry, with institutions, we see this as a partnership platform that goes beyond just the immediate community that it's impacting. And finally, when we were thinking of how a program like this would work in terms of the cycle of change, the change makers would be the one that are primarily impacted by this program, and then they'll go into the communities, empower other individuals, and then of course these empowered individuals would find better opportunities for themselves, and over time help to raise the standards of living, help to raise the level of engagement and dialogue in their communities, and then come back and join this program and be change makers themselves. And so we see that multiplier effect, as I mentioned just now, going further and further as we continue down this path.
Through the intervention of this program, the stories we heard earlier become drastically different. With a program such as Ignite ASEAN, Kalayaan is able to learn the skills necessary to transform her rural community and provide them with the technical knowledge and support to digitize their operations. And a young boy like Adam is able to pay forward to communities and share his skills and knowledge with young people in underprivileged areas. This is the future that we envision for youths across ASEAN. So the future of work is here. The future of work is empowerment. And we invite you to burn brighter with Ignite ASEAN. Thank you very much for listening to our presentation.
Great, thank you all, and thank you for that presentation. I also want to, before opening up to questions, as you say, everybody sort of virtually clapping, really nice and really exciting initiative. So the future is bright with these young people in charge, which is very inspiring. I wanted to ask Sahab and Max as well, if you wanted to add anything to the presentation before we get into the questions and answers. And Ong, if he's here as well. Yeah. I'm not sure if Ong can speak because of the internet problems, but Sahab, why don't you go first?
Yeah, from my perspective, I think this initiative can be applied and it can be multiplied anywhere where there is an inequality from rural and urban areas. I think like we can start to close the gaps. I think like reduce it continuously. I think like small efforts like this can give big impacts, like, and we can multiply it when we can do it consistently. I think it can be multiplied anywhere. So yeah, I think it's just a spark or just an ignite for us to inspire anyone in this room who wants to like do the same things anywhere that they can do. I think that's from me, Joyce. Thank you. Move to Max.
Max.
Okay, so I just want to share a little bit from my perspectives, because I think that our solution pretty much resonate with what I'm doing right now. So basically, like when we think, I think that like the connection is a little bit shaky. Okay, sorry for that. Okay, so I think that like the principles behind our solution pretty much boils down to a few key things. The first one, I think that like it's all about the 80-20 principle, which means that when we talk about making an impact, we cannot ensure that okay, everyone could have the opportunity or ability to do that at once. So basically, when we for the first step, you could see, right, we are kind of cherry pick, select the kind of really potential leaders who go through a list of criteria that we think of, so that we could ensure the possibility of them of their leadership potentials. And then moving next to the mentorship and coaching. Why is that? Because we believe that what is really missing or lacking usually in the talents themselves is that usually they kind of lose sight of the kind of the right track for their development. They have the potential, but they don't know where to go, how to go. So that when you have the mentor and the coach that could have the same background as them, they could provide more insights coming from that experience, so that these potential or would be change makers could potentially trap down, plan out a more a better plan for their development. And moving next for the partnership, I think it is pretty much really related to our in our Vietnam society right now. So basically right now it's kind of like a mismatch between the supply and demand, where the educational institutions, they have a lot of resources, but usually they don't know, okay, with our resources, okay, how could we help, or who should we help to develop. And so at the same time, on the other hand, right, we have someone, a pool of talents who longing, to develop, but they don't know where. Okay, they could find a kind of standardized or quality resources for their reference or development. So I think this kind of bridging between the supply and demand really helps us to kind of optimize the resources that we have been available right now. And last but not least, it's more or less something that you paying it forward, you're giving it back, right? I think that when you give back or pay forward back to the society, is also part of your learning as well, right? And also when you kind of making an impact, make it infectious to the society, everyone, you could attract more people with the same mind, or with the same interest with you. And so that it could help to multiply the resources that you could have. And then later on, you could have, pretty much, big impact to the society as a whole. So those are the key principles that I want to share more a little bit, just behind our story for the solution.
Thank you. That's great, and I think you raised some key things there. So it's paying it forward back into the community, but also upskilling within the community as well, so that the group that you're identifying are people that can relate to the community that they're working with. So the language issues are there, and that link, that bridging the gaps that quite often may be missing. But it was really nice working with you to see how you all drew on your own experience, and combining those resources and learning from each other is really a great way forward. I was just wondering if we have any questions or comments from the participants here this evening. We've got I know we have a large group of people who are involved in leadership and human capital development at different levels. And either if you have any suggestions for how this might be taken forward, or if you have any experience, but also if you have any questions for this group, we'd love to hear from you if you want to put in the chat, or equally, if you just want to open the mic and speak out, that's fine. My colleagues will help me look out for who's trying to say something. So Sylvie, did you want to say that, or you?
Yes, hello everyone. And
hello, Sylvie.
Yes, I'm based in Paris, France, so very far away, but I have a very deep interest in Asia and in Southeast Asia, which I know a little less. I was very moved by the stories I heard, because I have, just to make a long story short, I teach here in a few schools, and I have international students mainly from Asia, and I'm very happy when I hear such initiatives to grow everyone and bring everyone to a higher level, and especially from rural areas. So that I was really moved when I heard the story. Beyond from that, I'm interested in understanding how far you are in really implementing the project. I have not really understood if it's just you are at the research stage right now, or if you are in the implementation phase, or where are you exactly? Because I imagine it's not easy. It's not in one country; it's a number of countries. So where are you, and how do you think to go forward with it? Yes, thank you.
I can start to answer. Thank you very much, Sylvie, for your interest in our presentation. So the presentation that we made was for theoretical purposes, and we actually were very interested to ask the organizers of the workshop how we might be able to get funding so that we could actually put this into action. And we do each come from different countries with different cultures and different barriers that might need to be addressed before this becomes a reality. But I do know that Jared is very much working on this with his Global Citizen Education Group. He's already implementing this, so maybe he would like to share more about that.
All right, thank you, Nicole. Yeah, so I think, so my organization, we are working on educational programs that, I mean, in a way is very similar to the idea that we have had here in this presentation. Of course, the only difference would be that for my organization, we are in the private sector, and while we do operate on as a social enterprise, but it comes from the perspective of a private sector participant. That being said, how does my organization work across ASEAN? We actually do work with students from all 10 member states across Southeast Asia. And I think the key thing is really in working through ASEAN organizations like ASEAN Foundation, the ASEAN University Network, and starting from these institutions and then cascading down towards more localized engagement. I think in general, institutions in Southeast Asia are very open for collaboration, and they are very open for new ideas because a lot of Southeast Asian countries are now opening up, they are reforming, and in the education sector, they're more willing to collaborate. So that's why even in this idea, one of the things we also emphasized in this for this idea was to work with institutions and work with partners, because collaboration would definitely be very important, because the people on the ground are the ones that are best equipped to deal with localized situations. And I mean, even if you think of a very big market such as Indonesia, I think what's happening in Jakarta, what's happening in Sumatra, what's happening in Bali, it's just going to be so different. And so having that localized network is going to be really key in opening up a market such as ASEAN.
Okay, I'd like to add a little bit, Joyce. So yeah, like what Jared has shared, Sylvie, thank you for the question. I think we as a group hasn't implemented like fully for the theoretical approach from the idea that has been presented. But me personally, from my experiences, like Indonesia like consists of more than 17,000 of islands, and the development on the major island is not equally developed. So in my organization, like we are trying to develop 115 a year future leaders, like from the potential organization, and it consists coming from all of the major islands in my country. From like 8 years of the implementation, I think the results was quite good because the people that we hired from the rural areas coming from the local universities there, like after we train, we develop them, we gave them confidence. They become the local heroes that willing to spread the knowledge, willing to spread the the experiences that they got from the program, from the experiences meeting the experts. They encourage their friends. I think the changes like maybe like a little by little, but from time to time I see huge differences before we come and tap like their potential talent and train them. And now I think like it's really different from the place. Like for example, I visited like East Nusa Tenggara like 2 years ago, and after the pandemic began in March, we are more adept. We are more familiarized with online learning like this, and then more people come to our event. Like more people are willing to learn about new things that they can reach before. Because moving from island to island in Indonesia is a little bit pricey. Can you imagine, like if I move from Jakarta to Papua, it's the cost much higher than if I from Jakarta fly to Tokyo, Japan. So it's kind of tricky, especially in Indonesia, like to develop every people in the country. But from this small program, a partial program of our idea, when it's implemented in my country, like it's working properly, and I think it can reduce the inequality from the major island Indonesia into like small ones and the people that we never touched before. I think that's coming from my experience in Indonesia. Thank you, Joyce and Sophie.
It's interesting because, as you say, even within countries, and especially when you have a country like Indonesia, which is thousands of islands, many different languages, the distances between them, and in some ways this can actually be a way of bridging those and making people on a more equal footing. So let's hope that it can in some way, as all of you are doing, is having some parts of it, but looking at ways we can bring it together. Max, did you want to add something?
I just want to add a little bit in terms of because I see the chat box here. Miko asked about the identify or some possible challenges or the roadblocks, right? So I think that like one of the most important or like thing that we really think about is the technology. Why technology? Because first, when you look at the current situation, right, with such quite complex COVID situation, it's a must for us, right, to bring our solution virtually. So that's the reason why if you look at our solution, we have our technology, like the app base, as one of the key enabler for our solution to be successful. And so because of that, when it comes to technology, there's quite a few key things that you should think about. So besides the funding, right, for the infrastructure, things like that, I think one of the key things that we also really need to ponder is in terms of the people, somebody who would have the same interest in giving back to society like us, but more than that, he or she would also, or like they would also have a huge or really capable in terms of the technology, because for our group we don't have much of that capability in terms of technology. So we really need someone who could be like as our advisor, or like in terms of this thing, how we could optimize the finance kind of thing, but we can still ensure the effectiveness or the efficiency of the technology that we are going to roll out. So yep. So I think that like technology at the end is one of the key things, or like the roadblocks that we should think about. Besides that, just to add on, I think that like it's more or less in terms of the communication. Because right now, if you see that like just within one country, right now we for like in Vietnam right now, we mostly like staying at home right now, because the situation is kind of like getting much worse. It's like exacerbating. So that's the reason why it's a bit more difficult for us to, you know, go outside and to, you know, connect with people, right? And so let alone, you know, connecting, is all about the how you could like communicate your message, or like the things that you want them, you know, to join with you to be part of this solution. So I think that like the two key things is that like first is the technology in terms of the finance, the people, and another thing is would be the communication, how we could like ensure smooth, effective communication within our groups, and also, you know, within other people as well.
Thank you, Max. So that was looking at some of the potential roadblocks, which of course clearly finance is one of those. The infrastructure is a huge one, and the difference in infrastructures within and across the region, within countries itself as well as having identifying the right people with the technical expertise as well. I see here another question from Marie, Malaysia, which is, how do you see, Marie, would you like to sort of speak?
Go ahead, Joyce, go ahead.
Okay. I'm sure you'll put it better than me, but how do you see Ignite being positioned in relation to the projects you're already currently involved in, which seem already to try and tackle the challenges that you've identified? Is there a difference between them, and how do you see them being, how do you see Ignite in comparison with what each of you individually are working on, which address some of those issues? Nicole, do you want to start with that, or Ong, you're back with us? Do you want to address that one?
Not this one. Maybe like yeah, probably like related to this one. But the first question that like Sylvia asked, right? Yeah, and also there's the Maria, the question from Maria. And actually, like yeah, based on my experience, like I studied the S4 BPT, which is also a social enterprise, which is to be a bridge for the people from rural area and to get access to further study and job entry in the city. Yeah, we actually planned to help like provide a skill, and also to send them to ASEAN actually. And also like so far we have done is like we have connected with the institutes in Yangon and also in Thailand. So this is the example that we have, you know, I can give you. This is what we have done so far. And so those are young people from the rural area. So I mean, like for me, I also from the like small village from the rural area. And then like I have came across like so many different things like to moving to the city and going to the other country. And so the things like I want to like you know like what team have planned to multiply. So this is when I started this S4PD center, and I also like for those who graduate from our center, they also go back to their community and get back to their community, like providing a summer school, like teaching English or teaching computer, and also like providing the some skill like applying for a job, applying for a scholarship. Yeah. So those are what we have done so far, based on my experience, and that's what we have been doing. So I think, yeah, in the future, yeah, we can do much more than that. But the things like, as you all know, like in Myanmar, yeah, there's a lot of challenge. So I think, yeah, maybe like for the next 1 or 2 years, I think we'll get back to normal. And from my perspective, like for this, based on the situation in Myanmar, yeah, I think like the future. But so far, I don't know, like I don't know what to do yet. We also have closed our center so far. So please, those are my answer and respond to the, to Sylvia and Maria, and yeah.
Thank you. Yeah. Nicole, did you want to say something?
I just wanted to share that some of the projects that I am involved in are about futures literacy mostly, and not related to skills and talent development. We do have in our trade union, we have a workers' college that is supposed to train workers on skills so that they can be prepared for if their job suddenly becomes redundant. But this is something we're having difficulty with, again, with the issue of funding. As you know, there was quite a lot of job cuts and job losses and unemployment thanks to COVID. And we're trying to see actually how we can try and support the members of our union who find themselves out of a job because their industries have closed or the businesses have suspended operations. I think the issues there, though, might be more institutional. And the other projects that I'm involved in, I think that more people need to get on board so that we can actually push this together. And I'm very hopeful that together with our team that came up with this idea, we can try and see how we can help one another to put this together across the region, because it's very difficult to be able to find mentors who would be willing to give their time, who actually have the time to give, because they're usually very busy. And you also have the issue of young people in rural areas who may not have access to digital devices and, like we said, internet. So this is another infrastructure problem that we may not be able to solve on our own. So we'd have to figure out where we'd like to pilot this program, perhaps in a country like Singapore or Vietnam. In the Philippines, we could also try and do that, but we would need more support and more mentorship in order for this to get going.
Thank you. Yeah. Jared or Sahab, would you like to comment on that, and how, particularly how Ignite might be positioned in relation to the projects that you're currently involved in?
I think I would like to add some, Joyce.
Yeah.
Sorry if my son might have some noise. It's already azan in Jakarta for Maghrib. So I think Ignite can be positioned like as we as the initiator and a bridge for many parties, because as our plan that is written on the paper, like we connect many stakeholders like governments, private sectors, government, I mean from local or to central, with NGO, with the expert. From my perspective, in my program, like we only can maintain or manage like 150 students each year. So can you imagine like the multiply effect? Like I can assure you, like from the 150, we can tap more like 10 times in like 101 and 1500. So as the initiator, I think the Ignite can be the first program like to attract the other parties, like government, to start collaborate with us, to integrate the programs with us, because usually government in any country, they have programs to reduce the inequality, to develop their people, and like how to integrate like our plan and our programs with their programs, but Nicole has said that the numbers of mentors are very limited, so that how can like we assign each people that effectively. So maybe it come across from the Asia, not only from my country, because Indonesia itself like has only limited people who can share their time, willing to work to develop the other people, like especially coming from rural areas, because not only that they may have limited access, but also the level, the gap of education are very high in Indonesia, because sometimes the people, the expert, like kind of tired to start from very basic things, but the rural people, sometimes they have a very high motivation and high spirit to learn, but we need to bridge and close this thing, and to manage. When we talk about hundreds of millions of people, especially in Indonesia, it will become more challenging. When you have like very limited person, who have the expertise and willing to willing to share with the other people, but at the same time, like, we have to manage the stage from the learning itself, because I think the most important to is not only like making people in the same level at the same time, but having the same growth for every people that may be different level on in different stage of learning in our daily life. I think that's the most important thing. Like, we can make sure that every people has the same growth level, having the same percentage, and they have the right to get the best or a quality education that coming from us. And I think it's one of our responsibility as an educated person to share some of our insights to foster the this the knowledge to all the people that maybe we can reach. I think that's coming from me, Joyce and Mary.
Thank you. Jared, how would you see Ignite positioned in relation to the projects you're involved with? And
Sure. So I think in terms of the positioning of this particular idea, it is positioned as supposedly like a grassroots-based kind of an approach, as opposed to tackling education from, say, an institutional perspective or from, say, the private sector or the government sector. I think the idea that we had over here was to really harness sort of people's collective energies in order to put this project together. So, I mean, when we were thinking of this project, I mean, funding, as Joyce mentioned, was definitely one of the issues that if we really want to get this done would be an issue. But of course, to go beyond the funding issue, then by making it a grassroots-based movement, that would cut down a lot of costs. So a grassroots-based movement that, of course, would depend a lot on people doing pro bono, volunteering for mentorship, for teaching, while of course having a core team to sort of put it together. So in a way, it's like a non-profit model that uses a lot of grassroots effort to further impact, as opposed to coming in as a private player into the education sector, or say having a state, university or a school or the ministry coming in. So I think that's where we were conceptualizing this idea. But of course, a grassroots-based movement has its challenges as well. One of it being long-term sustainability, like people can only volunteer for so long. So that's why in this idea, we also conceptualize that the beneficiaries themselves will also need to come into the system in order to benefit other people downstream. And it's not just a one-off kind of a thing. Yeah.
thank you for that. And just one question from me: if you were, if we as an international community or a regional community were saying, what could we do to help? What would your answer be? What do you think we as a network of people who are interested in developing and education of people could do to help support this as a project? Any of the panel?
Perhaps in designing the modules that we would be giving to young people, I personally have no background in education and in teaching, and it's very important that you get the skills right in the material that you're giving to people. This is very important. Even if you do have a mentor, if the materials you have do not give them the sufficient learning, then it won't be that effective. Another is possibly to put us in contact with those who in the industry can say for certain that there are availabilities or there is growth in a certain market, because you can't just say that, okay, we need 200 Java developers, but then there's no company that will absorb them. So we need to take a look at the labor market and survey what kind of skills are needed. There are several institutions that do provide these, but they're not on a local level, and you can't pinpoint exactly which ones you can approach once you come out and say that, hey, we have this person, we put them through this training, and we think that they have the skills that you need in your employees. We would need to have quality testing, of course, for the skills that they are provided under this sort of initiative, and that's so that we have the credibility to say that if we have somebody who graduates from this, then they are employable. You can employ them right away. That's what I think that you could help us with.
Any other panel members like to comment?
Okay, so I think in the particular regard of how you could have the talents in the regions, like I think that like one of the key things, as I mentioned before, is that like usually the potential change makers or like the society leaders, usually what they're lacking or missing is like the guidance, or like some kind of like someone who could like give their food for thought for them to think about how they could really like maximize their potentials. So usually what they're lacking is that kind of aspect. So I think for that particular reason, so we could be like the connectors, right? Maybe we because we coming from from all walks of life, right, with different backgrounds, and we have pretty much exposure to quite a lot of things, and also like interesting projects, things like that. So I think that like when we in this particular aspect for the talent, we could maybe we might not be the right person for them, but maybe we know who they can reach out to, so that like they can get more advisory on how they could like potentially maximize their potential, and also like how they could like plan out their future for their career development, let alone their personal development as well. So I would say that one key thing is the connection. Yeah,
Connections, helping to connect. Yeah, thank you. Marie.
Yes, actually, listening to your question, Joyce, I have another question, just saying, where are you? And I think it's a little bit what, I can't remember who was with us earlier, Sylvie was asking, in terms of where you are in the project. I understand this was part of your workshop with the Asia Foundation. You've come up with a really good theoretical presentation. Is it your intention to continue to work as a group, or is it just there? Right? And if you are, if your intention is to continue as a group, have you put for what are the next steps that you've put for yourself, and what are the first thing you'd like to achieve?
I'll pass that to the group.
Or maybe it's too early a question and you haven't really thought about it.
No, I mean, I think that's a great question. I don't think we have sort of firmed up how to take this forward yet. This workshop happened like a month and a half ago. And so I think we have a good idea. We have done another meeting where we talked about potentially expanding this. But I don't think we have anything concrete at the moment. That being said, there's still a possibility. I think all of us, one way or another, are still, like Max and Sahab are in HR. Nicole is doing all her great things in the trade union. I'm in education, so like we're all tangentially related to this idea. So I guess if there is a opportunity, we have sort of a foundation to build on.
Yeah, and just adding to that, I know that there was a lot of interest within the workshop from other participants, and also from those who were involved in running it in this as an idea. And it was actually particularly praised for being the solution or the group project that was the kind of most likely to actually be applicable. And so I think there is some interest in trying to follow up with that. this group came together because of the workshop, and I think part of the idea of the workshop is that we try to help people to make those connections that can have that multiplying effect, and certainly has brought about some great ideas with this group, but also with the other groups that were presenting on some of the different issues as well, like sustainability and global health and other aspects that would impact the future of work, particularly in the region, and the ASEAN region being so vast and having so many different cultures and languages and geographies that are an advantage, but also can cause stumbling blocks as well. So it's a really interesting possibility. We'd like to kind of keep up the momentum. I think that this group, really as individuals are doing some great work, but when they come together, they have this fantastic synergy, which is really, really inspiring and great to see. So I really hope that we can directly or indirectly help seed something that will make it happen in some form. So we're interested to hear. I don't know if anyone in this group has experience elsewhere in the world of projects like this that they'd like to share, or if anyone would like to make any further comments or ask any further questions.
I guess I could add, Joyce, that maybe the next step for us is to apply for the YC Seeds for the Future grant, but that's, I think, around November, but we can polish our proposal, I suppose, or keep on the lookout for any other grants competitions out there so that we can try and find funding for this initiative.
It would be
I want to
good,
add some, to add some, Joyce. I think like we have some interest and concern within our country and with our people development, and we have some basics there. I think if we meet the opportunity like to develop or to run this project, I think from many sources, like Nicole has said, well, probably YC Seeds from the Future, or of any other parties that maybe wants to collaborate with us. I think we are like very open with this kind of opportunities.
So if any of you know anyone who would like to fund or be a mentor or have connections that you can give introductions, please get in touch. We've got lots of prospects here with this group and this proposal.
Well, if I may share a little bit more then, and I was just about to say there's just been involved in a similar, not a similar project, but in Malaysia, there's I don't know if any of you have heard of the Fit for Work program that was funded by Penjana, so one of the Malaysian institution, and that's basically what they do. Their aim is that through over 2 years to put 400 students through that program in upskilling and then to create the connection with the industries to hopefully get them to find work. So it's not exactly what your project is more ambitious, because clearly that one is more accessible to people from urban area. But yet at the same time, the first part of what I hear you talk about upskilling, and where Nicole, you were saying that you could get help in terms of designing the program, etc. That's the approach that they've taken. So of course that was funded, so they have engaged trainers to deliver a program. So we designed the curriculum that was about over 6 weeks, and then they paid. But I believe that if you had a program that was already there will be ways to get people willing to come and give pro bono modules, if you will, to help you get started. So just as a, hearing, I find your project really exciting, but for where I'm sitting from to say whether I can help contribute, it needs to be a little bit more structured, because at this moment, if I want to come, I would like to come with something fairly specific, because as you said, I don't necessarily have the time to give more than that. And yes, funding is always an issue, but I always believe that, get going first. And then the funding will somehow come through the connections you'll make. So find the right balance between the two. Just my comment, but well done. And it's inspiring to see what you've been up to. So congratulations.
Thank you for that. Thank you. That's really, really helpful. I'm going to ask for any final questions or comments before we wind things up. Can I ask the panelists if you'd like to make a last comment, each of you? Maybe we'll start ladies first. Nicole?
I'd just like to thank everyone again for listening very attentively, for all of your questions, because they do present some things that we may not have considered yet or thought about, like where do we go from here? So I'd like to thank all of you for your input and for inviting us. Hiraya Manawari to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Nicole. Great. Max, how about you? Final comment?
Yes, I think that like first I want to say thank you to all of you for listening to our project. So just also want to say a thank you to Mary for your input and also your advice. Yes, of course, if we want to make this thing happen, first we really need to really come down and to see how particular in for let's say in 1 year from now, what do we want to achieve, and specify more on things that we really need a helping hand or like resources or funding, so that when we have find the right opportunity, then we really might make this this Ignite solution really happen. So thank you for your advice pretty much, Mary.
Thank you, Max.
I'm sorry, like I missed some of
Oh,
you.
yes,
Like,
thank you.
Yeah, Maria, like I like yeah, can I ask you a question? Like so you mentioned about the provided training for the modular, right? So in Malaysia, so I mean, I would like to know about the challenge, like to provide such curriculum to like diverse people, like different people, like now let's say like for our Ignite program, this is like not just in Malaysia but also in Asia, so there will be different language, a different challenge. So, so can you share any challenge that you have come across?
Well, I guess as my take on that, you did mention that you wanted people to, first a group of people to come in and then be the champion that are going to develop that. So maybe your first target should be English-speaking candidates, so that you can tap into more resources, international resources as well, and then those people then could translate whatever has been done into the local languages of all your different countries. That would be my answer to that. As much as I would love to deliver a program in Myanmar,
Thank you.
I wouldn't be able to do it in any other language. I mean, I can do it in Mandarin, but none of that's going to be very useful there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Yeah.
You're welcome.
And Jared, any final comments from you?
Yeah, I think thank you again for providing this platform for us to have this discussion. I think it's great that there's so many people who are excited about this. And yeah, I think the thing about education is that we cannot go at it alone, but we need to continuously find opportunities for partnership. And I think there are a lot of good ideas out there. Funding is definitely an obstacle, but I think more importantly is finding the right committed people to put good ideas into work. So yeah, I think thank you again, Joyce, for giving us this platform. It's really great to meet all of you. And I think definitely, if there's any areas for collaboration, we'd like to connect and discuss further. Thank you.
Thank you. And Sahab.
Okay, So firstly, I would like to say terima kasih or thank you in Indonesia for all of the people in here. Also, I would like to say thank you for Joyce for inviting me and us in this very beautiful opportunity. And it's really exciting that I can meet many people that have the same interest and concern with us, especially in education and people development. Thank you, Mary, for your inputs. Thank you thank you everyone in here that listening to our idea. I think we have a very great plan, and it's I think it's okay that we can start small, starting from ourselves, that things that we can do in our daily job. Someday I hope that we can integrate it together, and also like to escalate it not only in our country but also in any places that maybe we can start to develop it. So yeah, it's very good and great to see you all this evening. Thank you, Joyce. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, and thank you to all of you in the group, and all of you participants. It really is great. You know, as individuals, we all do our own work, and we can make some difference. But together, if we collaborate, we really can increase and multiply that many times over. So for me, it's particularly inspiring seeing the next generation. I know all of you are much younger than me, so but for the the optimism that brings, and the inspiration and the hopefulness that it brings to me, is seeing the great group of young people with the will to work with the communities and work with each other and collaborate across boundaries, and make efforts to include each other. So I was really inspired by it, and I'm really hopeful that they will take something forward. And if there's anything that we can do to help them, and if anyone has any suggestions, keep in touch with Sietar. So thank you. I'm going to give a big round of applause to our participants. Thank you very much to the panel. That was great. Just before people go, I just wanted to share that we do have another event coming up in August. And so August the 18th, the date for your diary, which is one of our book club events, which is on being a distant grandparent, which I'm about to be. I'm not quite yet, but hopefully will soon be a grandparent, and with the author Helen Ellis, who's sharing on what it's like to be in New Zealand, but with grandchildren and other members of the family around the world, which applies to many of us who are involved in working across cultures. So that's our next event. But just wanted to say a huge thank you again to our panel, to all of the, Sahab and Ong and Max and Nicole and Jared there, and also to those who couldn't make it, but did such a great job in working together to produce this proposal. So thank you to all of you who came this evening, and thank you to our participants and our panelists. And we will share details of this event, and if any of you have ideas or connections or introductions for taking things forward, we'd be very happy to hear them. And likewise, if you have other ideas for presentations or workshops that we can do as a Sietar Southeast Asia, please get in touch. It's been really nice talking to you all tonight. Have a great evening or day or whatever it is, wherever you are. Really nice to see some familiar faces and some that we haven't met before. So have a good evening, have a good day, have a good afternoon, and we'll see you again soon, I hope. So take care.